This episode was a Patreon-sponsored review made possible by my beautiful executive producers, and backers over on Patreon. If you would like to help me out and make me dedicate more time to this to make videos more productive, faster, and better, and want to help me make this my full-time job someday, then wait until the end of the video or check the description down below for a link to my Patreon. Join before the September collection ends and you'll be able to skip the 1-month prerequisite for both producers and executive producers. Now that a quick little advertisement out of the way, on with the show. Greetings, my this is the Watchful Longma, and welcome back to another top 10 Brony analyst list. That's right, it's making its grand return. And I've had one analyst on the back burner for quite some time, but never really had the opportunity to do it until my Patreon has suggested I should. And you know what, with this recently announced engagement, I think now's the perfect time to do it. That's right, we're talking about Mr. JoshScorcher, aka the Fiery Joker. Someone I consider not only one of the last remaining OGs in this fandom, but one of my favorite bronies period. I can safely say I've been entertained by his reviews ever since high school, way back in his way old MLP reviews. And now that I'm getting paid to talk about this guy, I think now's the perfect opportunity to count down my top 10 favorite videos of his. However, before we begin, I do want to set a couple ground rules. Rule number 1, no TF2 analysis anarchy. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but that's more Josh and Dr. Wolf's baby, not Josh completely and utterly directly. I'm only looking at projects he had a complete and utter direct, uninterrupted hand in making. That does mean his Magic the Gathering interviews, however, are still eligible. And rule number 2, no collabs on other channels, because for the same reason I haven't count collabs on other channels for other videos. I'm looking for videos he had a direct involvement with. However, that does mean his FOP Equestria Taken Too Seriously videos do still count. But those are really the only restrictions, so besides that, anything else is free game. So without any further delay, let's start playing with fire, cause we're counting down the top 10 best JoshScorcher moments. Number 10. His Magic the Gathering interviews. I'll admit this one was a toss-up between his Magic the Gathering music videos and his Magic the Gathering interviews. I had a hard time picking between the two because they both had the very same reason for being on the list in the first place. However, ultimately the interviews won out for one particular reason. And what are those two reasons? Well, for one thing, it got me super interested in the lore of Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I played the game a little bit, but I've never been super interested in the story or lore of the universe. However, these interviews and by extension the music videos really did change my mind about that and got me super interested in it. I now want to learn more about stuff like Planeswalkers as well as the different colors and all the different guilds like Barus, Izzet, and on second thought maybe not Rakdos, but my point still stands. However, ultimately the Magic the Gathering interviews were what won out. And why is that? Because honestly, I find this fascinating. I find this character study of different colors to be absolutely amazing and fascinating to me. It's super interesting to see all these different ideals come together and be represented by simple colors. Not to mention the voice actors they got for these colors are really good. I mean, the interview is very obviously the Wilsonator, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he's good. And before you ask, I consider myself a little blue and white with a splash of red. And my favorite episode is the black color just because of how creepy it is. It's like the perfect thing to watch around Halloween time. The hell was that? Probably nothing. The only thing that's really stopping it from being higher is the fact that I'm still getting into Magic the Gathering, but still, this is very much a fascinating intro for me, and I can't wait to see all the colors of Magic. Number 9. His top 10 musical fighters list. While I am by no means a fan of bards as far as D&D is concerned, I will admit the idea of people using music as a literal weapon does fascinate me, and I'm glad to see Josh give some recognition to the people that do fight like that. As someone who learned to play the guitar a couple years back, it really does make me happy to see this kind of list come to tuition. And while I'm not familiar with all of the entries, I can't say he makes a really convincing argument for most of them. However, I do have to say his number 1 is a perfect choice. There is only one Eddie Riggs and he is amazing. In fact, before we move on, one time a quick decapitation. Decapitation! Awesome. Moving on. Number 8. Games to show your friends. I love this list simply because it's the most practical out of all of his lists. I mean, let's face it, we've all thought about what games we can show our friends to make it the most entertaining for them. And this is a list I could totally use for my real life friends. I mean, these are all games I agree would be great in a situation for like, say, a blind Let's Play or something. Hell, I noticed because some of these games I actually have played on stream, hashtag shameless plug. And Josh was right, their reaction to Pony Island was absolutely delightful, in spite of the close to 1 minute delay. And it's given me a ton of ideas not just for cons but for future streams as well. As well as just being an entertaining list in general, to see Josh be so gleefully sadistic when it comes to Until Dawn. Would not look forward to playing that game for Halloween. Okay, so you guys are hearing that, right? I'm not going crazy here, right? Anyway, not much else to say besides thanks for the game suggestions. Number 7. his Spirit of Justice review. I'll admit this is probably the interesting entry on the list because I really can't describe why I like this so much. I mean, sure, they make good points, sure they go into great depths with the review, and sure, they make the game look really fun, which is what a review should do if it's positive, but at the end of the day, I'm not a big Ace Attorney fan, so at the end of the day, I shouldn't like this so much. I think what sells it for me though is the comedic and entertaining editing in this. I mean, good lord, this episode looks like it was a complete and utter joy to edit. Not to mention Josh's collab partner for this is equally just as entertaining. In fact, full disclosure, I'm actually going to check out his channel right after I'm finished with this. And I think I'm going to do the same for this game because honestly this game sounds really entertaining thanks to these two, and I look forward to contacting the Spirit of Justice. Number 6. A Very Minty Christmas. The second you hear that title, you know it's gonna be a fun one. And Josh definitely does that with, to my knowledge, his only Christmas special ever. Who knows, maybe there'll be one this year. And because it's G3, there's a lot of material to go with, and they bring the laughs. I consistently laughed throughout this whole review. But it doesn't just stop there because this is also a collab. And it's a collab with the one and only Dr. Wolf. Which is great because honestly, these two have amazing chemistry together. They complement each other perfectly and lead to probably the best combination as far as comedy wise, where Josh plays the goofball and Dr. Wolf plays the straight man. Though considering it's Dr. Wolf, you could have probably guessed he was the straight man in this. And it's not a diss at him because despite being the straight man, he does still get some great lines in. But I think what I like most about this special is that I can tell just from the feeling of them that these two love Christmas because it really does bleed out of their review. And anyone who loves Christmas gets an automatic win in my book. Bold anime making Kentucky Fried Silverquill. Number 5. His Candlelight Wedding 2-parter, aka the first JoshScorcher video I ever saw. No joke, this was the very first video of his I ever saw ever. And yeah, there's a good chance a lot of people are gonna think this doesn't age very well, but damn it just has a special place in my heart. Because I literally watched this almost a couple days after seeing A Candlelight Wedding for the first time. And I actually had a lot of fun seeing him poke fun at this episode I loved so much. And honestly, I think it helped me think more critical about MLP episodes because as much as I love it, his review really did point out a lot of flaws to it, and it made me go back to some of the other episodes. And by finding flaws in episodes I didn't care for, I was able to enjoy the episodes I did like a lot more. So in a way, I have this review of Josh's to thank for setting me on the path of being a brony reviewer. And without being set on that path, I would have never met so many of my friends and got so many subscribers. So thanks for all the future friends and subscribers, Josh. That's how that works, right? Number 4. His top 10 controversies in gaming and his top 10 EA mess-ups. I decided to put these two together because they're basically two halves of the same coin. They're also the most recent entry on this entire list, which I know is pretty surprising. I mean, yeah, they're not super recent, but even so, they are still some of his more recent videos. So the fact that they're some of the most recent and are this high on the list should speak volumes on their quality. And yeah, they are both thoroughly entertaining and honestly pretty educational in my opinion. I mean, yeah, some of these I did hear, but a lot of them I didn't. And even though they're both very similar, I do like them for completely different reasons. The top 10 video game controversies one I like because honestly I think it's probably his most comedic one to date. I'm serious, first thing when I got home and watched this, I could not stop laughing the whole time I was watching it. And I think a large part of that was due to his collab partner for this That Creepy Reading. Someone I was vaguely familiar with but didn't know anything about until this collab. And I'm glad I did because if this review's any indication, he is a funny guy. And like I said, there's a good portion of these I didn't know about and it's fun to see all these really interesting observations. And the EA one I really like because, well, let's be honest, that was a list that was a long time coming. EA's become more than just a mere joke in the gaming industry, they've become a full-on warning. A full-on warning on how toxic this environment can become. And it was really nice to see Josh really tear into them like this. And bringing up a lot of things I didn't even know about. I mean, yeah, I knew some of the big stuff like microtransactions and the whole debacle with Mass Effect Andromeda, but I did not know about number 1, and good lord. All it does is prove even more that EA either needs new management or to just stop. Or possibly both. I don't know and I don't care. And as I really move on before I go on into a tangent, so all I'll say is that last take. Number 3. His top 10 Dynasty Warriors. This list is just 10 degrees of fun. Any list that can actually convey the fun of Dynasty Warriors without having someone actually play the game instantly gets a win in my book. And yeah, I make it no secret, I'm a huge fan of Dynasty Warriors. I've been a fan ever since number 3. There's just something relaxing and cathartic about Dynasty Warriors, but this isn't a review of the game so I'm getting off track. point is, one of the things I really did like about it were the characters, and it's nice to see Josh count down some of the best. And his choices were absolutely spot on, especially with Lu Bu and Suma Yi. Though personally I would have put Guan Yu and Liu Bei on the list, but that's just me. And it's just nice to see someone give love to this franchise that gets so much hate. Seriously, I remember when I rented Dynasty Warriors 7 from a Hollywood video, if anyone actually remembers those. And then when I asked the guy, what does this game do different from the other ones, literally the only thing he could think of was the dead bodies stay there instead of just disappearing. Yeah, if you were to tell that to some kid renting it, that wouldn't exactly evoke confidence, now would it? Which is why I'm glad I've seen someone that not only loves the franchise but can sing its praise, because let's be honest, Chinese history is probably one of the best war histories ever. Even if, let's be honest, this is in no way historically accurate. Seriously, this is Legolas from the Two Towers levels of ridiculous. And I love it. Number 2 is Taken Too Seriously reviews. All of them. Okay, yeah, I know it's a cop-out, but let me explain. If I put the Taken Too Seriously videos on this list, they would make up maybe 3/4 of the list. They're that good. So much so that I would have to either make a completely different list altogether or make it a top 20 just to make it fair. So this is my compromise. I'm just gonna put them all at number 2. And yeah, while some may shine above others, honestly, I have yet to find one I don't like. And I think the main reason they are so entertaining is because they're all collabs. Kind of a general rule of thumb, but collabs are usually some of the best reviews out there. Not that I would know anything about that. But getting back on topic, Josh really does pick the best collab partners out there. Sometimes they're good friends and big names in the community, but he's not afraid to pick some diamonds in the rough. Analysts, reviewers, and entertainers just starting out or getting started in the fandom he likes to highlight. And I love that he's giving recognition to some of the smaller names in the fandom. And honestly, considering how entertaining the reviews actually are, it does its job perfectly, as I want to check these channels out. And ultimately, I think that's the best compliment a collab can get, is if the collab partner is someone I want to check out in a measly 15-20 minutes or so. But that being said, I'm sure some of you are still miffed I'm not talking about individual episodes. So as a compromise, here are some of my favorites. Times They Are Changing for just being unapologetically goofy. Spice Up Your Life for including Best Deal Butt. Applejack's Day Out for being the first collab with Ari, and come on, these two were made for each other. Fault in Our Cutie Marks for the Bliss Squee. Has analysis damage to fandom for clearing up misconceptions about the analysis community. And every little things he does because Aeon. And now before we get to number 1, time for a few honorable mentions. Slice Up Base Life. Absolute adorableness and I love it. D&D CMPC. As someone who just recently started doing his own D&D sessions, I can safely say this was incredibly entertaining and relatable. What stopped him from being on the list though is that it's essentially just a con announcement video, so yeah, that's kind of an automatic disqualification. But good lord if it's not one of the most creative and funniest ones I've ever seen. The Hug a Bunch video. Who knew watching 3 reviewers suffer through this could be so entertaining? His MLP the movie review. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't judge it. His Double Rainbow review. Easily the most negative I've ever seen Josh, and damn shots fired. And finally, Brony D&D. Once again, it is more of a collective effort, so I don't really count it, plus it is on Dr. Wolf's channel. However, since Josh is the DM, I should at least mention it. But enough delaying, let's get to it. Number 1. Top 10 musical battles. No, it's not the funniest. No, it's not the most unique. No, it's not the most interesting. It's not just those things individually, it's all of those things and so much more. First of all, this is an idea that I absolutely love on concept alone. I love musical battles too, and it's nice to see someone count down some of the best. It's also just great to see him go into such detail with these. Not to mention, I could not stop laughing throughout this. It was just so entertaining, I can't help but love it. But I think the reason why I love it most above all the others is it is what I consider JoshScorcher. If I were to find someone who didn't know about this guy and I could point to one video to show him everything he's about, it would be this one. Because it stands for everything Josh is known for: his creativity, his comedy, and it's also the most accessible, relying the least amount on any video game knowledge. It's a list literally anyone can get into, even if you're not a brony like he is, a video game lover like he is, or literally anything he is. I suppose the only reason why you wouldn't be into it is if you hated music, and if that is the case, well then I don't know what to do for you. It's number 1 because of all those reasons I listed, and because it was the video that made me realize Josh was going to be one of my favorites. And to this day, and one big beard later, he still is. And whether it's FOP Equestria, a top 10, or an MLP review, I awaited with bated breath. Oh, and also one last time to both you and Ari Josh, congratulations on the engagement. And that does it. Thank you so much for watching, every last one of you. And once again, I want to give a big thank you to all my executive producers and brony backers over on my Patreon who made this video possible. My executive producers like Jade the Blue RDM, Mike Drop, and Painted Patience, and my regular producers like Season the Wiccan. And if you want to join these people and help me out, then check the description down below or click the link to the Patreon at the end card. I'm shooting for $500 a month so I can start dedicating more time to this. I also run streams every Saturday where I do questions in the afternoon and drunk streams at night. Keep an eye out for my Twitter or follow me on Twitch if you want to hang out and keep an eye out for those. I'm the Watcher Pony, and... I feel like I'm forgetting something important. Something big. Like a big, spooky something holidays coming up soon?